Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. Good evening. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a woman from Zim, currently here in Zim. So my brother, he passed away in South Africa, but he had joined a satanic occultic club, and after he had joined that club, that was when he died. But first he came back home. He had so much money like we had never seen in our entire life. And my brother, when he returned back to South Africa, he then passed away. And when his body was brought back, we tried to bury my brother, but he refused to be buried for 3 days. We were only able to bury him on the 4th day. The grave kept vomiting the coffin. And this is what my brother was saying when he came back from South Africa, when he was all rich. He was like, money speaks, and when money is talking, you are not supposed to ask where it was coming from. And that was the truth. He came back as a wealthy man. Where he had gotten his money, no one knew, and no one even wanted to ask. Even my own husband, he was not even ashamed that he was staying with me at my parents' house because he could not get a job. Things were so hard, so much that we were just praying for a miracle, and our miracle came in form of my brother when he returned back from South Africa as a wealthy man, and he started throwing money at the gate just like in the Nigerian movies, and we were all picking up that money. We were not even ashamed of what we were doing because we were so much into poverty by that time. No one really knows when my brother crossed over into South Africa, because first he left the village in Chiredzi, and then he went and he stayed there in Beitbridge because he did not have enough money to cross over into South Africa. And when my brother, whom I'll call Wellington, returned back from South Africa, it was in the year 2011. He came as if he was a king. He was driving this beautiful black Mercedes Benz, and the way that he was wearing, it was as if he was a nigger, and he had these chains that were gold-coated chains, and he had so much money. Like, he left back home and then he started working there in Beitbridge, and he moved over to South Africa. So when he arrived in the village, this was like late at night. He left his beautiful black Mercedes Benz by the gate, and he came and he found us. We were seated in the kitchen, and we were so surprised and shocked. We did not expect that he was going to return so soon. And we started screaming, and he was like, shh, shh, you need to keep quiet, because I do not want these witches from this village to know that I am back in the country. Otherwise, they would want to eat me alive. Look at me. I have been in South Africa living a very good life. Even now, these witches, they will say that his steak, his flesh, it is so fresh. Let us eat him. So when he showed us all the money that he had, he said he was into logistics. As someone that liked to show off, he never showed us any of his trucks. And that night, he started throwing 200 rand notes on the gate like he was blessing us. And he was saying that he had came back for us to change our lives for good. We returned back into the kitchen. Even my father, I saw him crying, and he was saying that, oh, my son, you are back. You are back, my son. And this was after my brother had given our mother 20,000 rands in cash. But he said something that was quite strange. He was like, do you know that it took us 2 days to count this money before I had left South Africa and came back to this village? So I said, who do you mean by us? So then, do you have a South African wife? We can't wait to meet her. He said, no, no, no. And he just smiled. So at the end, he was like, there were some guys that I pray with. They were the ones that assisted me. One day, he told us that he wanted to buy a farm. He was like, I am going to buy a farm. So my husband, he is an accountant by profession. It is just that he is unable to get a job. So he then spoke with my husband and he said, brother-in-law, I want you to grab a book and a pen. My husband, as if he was a small child, was running around as he was being sent to do things that he is not even supposed to do. But when you are poor, a rich man will do whatever that he wants you to do. All of us, we were just doing whatever that Wellington, my brother, wanted us to do. He said that we were supposed to write all the things that were needed at the farm that he was going to buy, all the material, the equipment that is needed. He was like, oh, brother-in-law, this farm that I am going to buy, I cannot run it on my own. So what we are going to do is that I'll be back in South Africa and you are going to be the manager of my farm. You are going to stay at my farm looking after my sister and her kids. I want you to do that. And we were busy writing all the businesses that we were thinking about. And another day he said, I am going to fly to Dubai. We did not even know that there was such a country that is called Dubai. He said, if I go to Dubai, when I come back, I am going to buy a Marco Polo bus and I am going to do a cross-border business. I will make a lot of money for you guys. So when he would open his wallet, he had so much money like we had never seen in our entire life. But still, he did not want the neighbors to know that he had brought so much money. So the neighbors, they would send their kids to our house because they knew that our brother had came back and we were eating a lot every day. It was more like Christmas with the way that we were eating nice food. So our poor neighbors will send their kids so that they can come and beg for food. And this is what my brother used to say whenever you would see a neighbor's child hanging around our yard. You would be like, you need to return back to your poor parents, you hungry child. You are just a Malala pipe. So we did not even know what Malala pipe means. That was when he told us that in South Africa, he had been told that a Malala pipe, it is a homeless person who would be sleeping in those drainage systems. So they call him a Malala pipe. So he would be insulting all the poor people in the village that would come to greet him, saying that they are Malala pipe, they have nothing. Even one of my relative stole 8,000 US dollars from him after he had told them to clean his car. And when we were looking for him, he was like, leave him alone, leave him alone. What is 8,000 US dollars to me? It is nothing. So there was this other auntie of ours who had passed away when Wellington was not around. So there were strange things that he said. Even my father at that time, he said, no, we cannot do something like that. What are people in the village going to say about us if they see us performing something that is as satanic as like that? They will think that maybe it is witchcraft that we are doing. So this is what our brother had suggested. He said, since our auntie had passed away when we were unable to tell him because he did not even have a phone, so he wanted us to replay the funeral. He said, this is what we are going to do. With the money that I have, I can do anything. So I want my auntie to be reburied. We are going to the city, to the mortuary, and I am going to pay them, and we are going to pretend as if we have brought my auntie's dead body to that mortuary. I will pay them well at the mortuary so that they can pretend as if they are busy attending to my auntie's dead body, and we will go back to the mortuary and collect her body. But after I would have bought a coffin instead of the body, since we won't have her body, we are going to place an egg. And my father said, no, we cannot do something like that, for he wanted us to return back with the coffin and to bury the coffin with the egg inside. My father said, what are the people in the village going to say? We cannot bury an empty coffin with an egg inside. So my mom then had a dream, a very weird dream, after the tombstone had been placed on our auntie's grave. My mother told me that she had a dream. She saw our brother Wellington was standing in the house that he was staying in South Africa, standing in front of an altar. This altar was made out of human bones, and there was a cow that was inside that small room. This cow then started speaking with my mother, and this cow said to my mom, Wellington, his money is blood money. He used me in his ritual. So the next day, as we were busy counting the money, because this is what my brother will do to us. He will say, everyone gather around. We would be in the kitchen mud hut, and we will take our African wrapping skirts and put them on the floor. He would take the money and heap the money on those African wrapping skirts, and each and everyone had a duty to count the money. The money was just too much. We were unable to count it all. So on that day, when he just left and grabbed all of his money and he said, I am leaving, this was after my mom, even though I told her that she was not supposed to ask him some questions, but my mother said, Wellington, this money, I don't feel okay. Look at this money. Have you ever seen so much money in your entire life? It is not possible. Did you rob someone in South Africa? Because they might be looking for you. My brother, instead of explaining how he had managed to come back home with so much money, he got angry. He was, don't even question my success. That is what he said. That was the last day that we saw him alive. Then in 2012, a call came from Johannesburg. There was this other woman who was speaking in her South African language that we could not understand. She was crying. So my mom was the one who was speaking with her in Shona, so they could not communicate with each other. She gave me the phone. It was I who spoke with that woman in English, and she was like, your brother is collapsed. So it turned out that she was the woman that was staying with our brother, and she said that my brother collapsed, and then there was blood that was coming from his nose and ears, and he was gone just like that. He died before his 30th birthday. We did not understand it. This man, he was healthy when he came back home. He was the one who taught us how to use Facebook. He showed us a lot of pictures that showed that he had so much money. He had made money in South Africa. So the body arrived at our rural home 2 weeks later, but he came back to Zim. His body came back with an aeroplane, and there were some Nigerian guys that had accompanied the body. They told us, and our brothers drove from the village and went to Harare. They met with those Nigerians by the airport. These Nigerians, they wanted to come and to attend the funeral, but there was a big argument with our brothers, and then they said, it is fine, we are going to give you some family time so that you can bury Wellington. As for us, we are going on a vacation right now to Victoria Falls, but after you have buried your loved one, you need to tell us so that we can come. We have to see his grave before we return back to South Africa. So when his body came back with the things that happened, my brothers, then they said, if those Nigerians come into this village, if they try to do anything on his grave, they will return back dead. We are not going to allow them come here and return back alive. So what happened, my brother, was that on the burial day, after his body had been collected from Harare and brought back to the village, everything went wrong. As they lowered the coffin into the grave, the ropes that we were using to lower the coffin into the ground, those ropes, they broke. We got shocked because we thought that the coffin, it was going to follow and it was going to land too hard on the ground, but it did not happen like that. The coffin it kept on hanging in the air. This was not like happening for a very long time. It would happen maybe for a second or 2 seconds, such that you'll just see that the coffin, it is hanging in the air. It is not falling down, even though there is nothing that is holding the coffin. And the next thing, when you would blink, you will see that the coffin will be by the side of the grave at the place where you would have taken it. That was what was happening. My brother's coffin was refusing to go into the grave. It was floating in the air like there was someone who did not want to accept it. There was this other lady, a traditional healer, who used us for nothing. That woman said that she had so much powers and she was able to speak with our brother's spirit. So that is what she made us to do. She told us that we were supposed to buy some chibuku, and then we went to the graves. And when we arrived at the graves, that was when she told us to kneel down. She was in front as she was speaking with our brother's spirit, and then she poured the powdered tobacco onto the ground, including the chibuku as well, the traditional beer, but nothing happened. Still, we could not bury our brother. That was when we were told that there was a prophet that was going to come from Gutu. This prophet came. He had this other walking stick which was red in color. He then said that there was something that was happening and he was going to assist us so that we can be able to bury our brother. He then went and he placed the walking stick on top of my brother's grave, and after that, that was when he told us that we were supposed to lift the coffin. So we lifted the coffin and then we went with it to the kraal, and he told us to place it in the middle of the cattle kraal. All the cows were brought back home, and we were told that we were supposed to lock them up in that kraal where we had placed the coffin in the center of the kraal. We thought that maybe they were going to damage the coffin, but it did not happen. He said, "Everyone, young and old, you are supposed to follow me to the place where you want to bury him." So we then went to that empty grave, and then he placed his walking stick in the grave. He left it there throughout the night. That was when he took this other wooden plate that they use in the White Garment Church, and he put some holy water. He gave it to my father, and he told my father to sprinkle it into the grave, including my mother. And then after that, they were made to hold it at the same time and to drink from that clay plate at the same time. After that, that was when they were told that they were supposed to spit out the water that they had drank. They were not supposed to swallow it. So then they spit into the empty grave, and then they started to pray. They were like, "You have to agree to be buried, oh my son." And then we returned back home. When we arrived at the homestead, we went to the cattle kraal where we had left the coffin, and we found out that the cattle, they were just relaxed as if they did not see that there was a coffin in there. We thought that they were going to destroy the coffin, but that did not happen. We lifted the coffin and returned back with it back inside. When we went back to the grave, Brother Nashi, that was when that prophet said that the body could not be buried, for he wanted the spirit of my brother to speak for itself. So I had this other brother of mine. He had his daughter at that time. She was still very young. So what this prophet did was that he summoned the spirit of my brother so that the spirit can speak to us directly. Then my brother's spirit came and it possessed my brother's daughter. She started to speak as if she was Wellington, acting as if she was Wellington, and she started going around greeting Wellington's friends, and she was like, "You are here, you are here. I thank you so much that you are present at my burial." And you would be laughing at us, his relatives, and you would be like, you are going to stay here even for a year. I don't even care. I am not going to get buried when my friends are not here. Where are my friends? He was getting violent at that time as he was saying that, where are my friends? Where are my friends? So the names that he was mentioning, I had never heard those names before. So he kept on screaming and saying, where is Chinedu? Where is Chinedu? So we were like, what is he trying to say? Who is this Chinedu? That was when one of this other guy who was there said that the name that he was mentioning, he had heard that name before because he kept on saying, where is Obafemi? So that guy said he knew this other Nigerian soccer player who went by that name. That was when we realized that, oh, so he is talking about his Nigerian friends, those ones that went to Victoria Falls. So when he realized that, now we understood that this Chinedu, it was a Nigerian friend of his that he was talking about. He was rolling on the ground as he was laughing, and he was saying, my relatives are so stupid, my relatives are so foolish. I was trying to tell them that if those guys, those Nigerians, my friends, if they are not here, I am not going to agree to be buried. So he was even laughing at us. He was like, everyone sit down. We are not in a rush. We are not rushing anyway. We are going to sit here by the graveyard until you call my friends so that they can come here, because you are very stupid. We can even spend the whole year at this funeral. I don't even care. So at that time, it was as if his body was becoming bad because the coffin was starting to smell. So he was like, don't even worry about this smell that is coming out. I will dry up very soon. But I want to know from you, are you brave enough to stay for the whole year with a dead body in your house? If you are that brave, then do not call my Nigerian friends. I am not going to get buried. So that was when he was told by the prophet that it was not possible for those men to come to the village because of some other things that had happened. He was supposed to agree to be buried. So this prophet, he had been in those situations before. He was a man that was very experienced when it came to speaking with the dead people. So he kept on speaking with the spirit of my brother in a nice way, such that they started to understand each other. My brother's spirit was no longer violent, no longer punching people or rolling on the ground. He was listening to the prophet. They spoke for a very long time until he said, okay, I understand you. You want me to get buried, but there are things that are stopping me from getting buried. And if you cannot remove those things, I will never be buried. So the prophet asked him, what was he talking about? He then said, you need to look into my coffin. When we returned back home, that was when we found out that there was a red cloth that was in there. We buried my brother with that red cloth. This red cloth that we found in his coffin, it was as if it had been placed on that very same day, and it was soaked in oil. It was dripping thick oil. And then he had this other neck chain that he had. And when we asked our brothers if they had noticed these items at the time when he was being placed in his coffin, they said no such a thing they had seen in his coffin. So the neck chain that he had, it had bright colors. It was changing its color into gold, sometimes changing into silver. That is what we saw in his coffin, and we buried him with all of those things. That is what happened to my brother. So you need to pray for your relatives that might be working in South Africa so that they can never get desperate, such that when they get desperate, they will end up joining Satanism. That is what happened to us as a family. When you post my story, please tell me. I'll follow through in the comment section, because after that was when we were able to bury my brother. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our sister, and this was the translation. Let us try to speak with her in the comment section.